Ugh. 2020 sucked, didn't it? Now, don't get me wrong, there were a couple of good things that happened in 2020, but overall, 2020 was a bit of a mess considering we all had to stay indoors and just a couple of other random crap that's happened this year. Although, oddly enough, it actually wasn't that terrible of a year for games, if you ask me. There were quite a few games I played this year that I liked, and I figured I might as well go ahead and list my 5 favorites to celebrate one of the weirder years in our lifetime. So I figured, why not? Let's give this a shot.
Now hold on just a minute, you may want to consider the topic you're diving into.
Who are you?
Bitch, you trying to act like you don't know who I am? It's me, Mario, you stupid dumbass. If you talk about games on the internet, there is a certain chance that you'll be bombarded with attacks from people that think they're right even though it's just that they're fucking not.
Yeah, but this is just my opinion, it's not an objective list, so they can have their opinion and share it in the comments if they feel like it, and I'll respect them for it.
You think that this is all easy just like common sense, when in reality you're on a platform where nasty assholes are gonna get riled up and up their ass over the stupidest of things. Watch, I'm gonna do one right now. Yeet, Sonic Forces is better than Sonic Mania.
There's quite a bit of stuff that came out last year that I was really into, and I also did play some games on my backlog. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? Go outside? I'd be locked up for that. I think the big one that I played and finished on my backlog was Undertale. That game was so much better than I expected it would be, given the game was memed into oblivion, but it's one of my favorite RPGs now for sure. And I also added a bunch of stuff I haven't played to my Steam library during the winter sale, so I bet those will get some mentions next year, I guess. Lots of ports came out this year as well. I sat down and played all those treasure missions in Pikmin 3 Deluxe entirely in co-op with a friend and got all those platinum medals twice. Then Super Mario 3D All-Stars came out, which was rumored to oblivion, and it was the most cash-grabby thing I've ever seen Nintendo do. I both am glad and regretful that I bought this thing. On one hand, I have 2 fantastic games and 1 decent game on the Switch, and on the other hand, the ports kinda sucked and Nintendo forced us all to buy it because it'll be gone this year. And on more of the remake side, Demon's Souls comes out a few months after it was announced, and I freaking love the remake. If remakes weren't excluded for this, I'd definitely put this one on here. I had so much fun with this game. Now straying away from remakes and ports, while the Game Awards was simping for Naughty Dog, we were out here playing Fall Guys, which was fun for like 3 weeks before Among Us got a massive resurgence in popularity. But you see, that's not a game that came out in 2020, so I can't talk about the amount of fun I had with that game. And apparently, while I was asleep for a year, a Kirby fighting game came out, which I have not played with anyone yet, but it was a fun distraction. And that sequel to Super Meat Boy finally came out, and I actually thought this one was really good. Not as good as the first game, but I beat it twice, and I liked it both times. Sackboy Big Adventure was a bit basic, but I liked that one as well. And I loved Astro's Playroom on the PS5. Oh yeah, and Dreams is an amazing sandbox creator thing. I had so much fun surfing through Dreams this year. People have made amazing stuff with that. And as for the other 2 things that happened for Mario's 35th anniversary this year, Super Mario Bros. 35 is probably my favorite version of Mario 1, not gonna lie, though I'm pissed at Nintendo for having the nerve to take it down this year as well. And Mario Kart Live Home Circuit was really freaking cool if you have a good amount of space. Haven't played it recently, but I had a lot of fun arranging tracks on the floor in my room. I got really creative with the shit lying around this lair of mine.
Well, enough of the little mentions. Let's get on to the big 5 that I thought were really good this year. It's genius!
Paper Mario: The Origami King surprised me. When I first watched the trailer for this game, I admittingly was very disappointed that after all the return forms we've been getting on the Switch for games like Zelda, Mario, and Mario Party, and how successful they've been, Paper Mario was still over here sticking to the formula that nearly no fan of the first two Paper Mario games were down with. But after watching more news of the game come out, I grew cautiously optimistic. So when I got the game on launch, I went into it with an open mind, and I actually ended up on the other side really liking it. Is it as good as the first three Paper Mario games in my opinion? Not personally, but I had a really fun time with it. While the game's progression was linear, we did finally go back to having a connected world in this game, and it really brings the world to life. This game runs on the same engine as Paper Mario Color Splash, but my goodness, this game just pops so much more visually. There's a lot of incentive to look around the environments to see if you can find any secrets within them, like toads. The battle system is pretty hit or miss with a lot of people, but I personally really like it. You have to turn these rings to line up enemies into a certain pattern to land your attacks on them depending on what weapon you use. It feels really good when you have these enemies just scattered everywhere, and it seems like it makes no sense. But then you're able to quickly figure out how to line all of them up with the limitations you have. It's really cool when you can pull that off. They reverse the positions in the boss battles. I also had a lot of fun with these, trying to figure out how to weaken them and where to strike at. I still think the battle system in the first two games are better and way more seamless, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a kick out of this game's battle system. The last thing I'll say that I really do love about this game is the freaking music. Holy shit, this game, of all Nintendo games, a spin-off series based on arts and crafts in the Mario world, has one of the greatest soundtracks I think I have ever heard in a Nintendo game, besides maybe Super Mario Galaxy, but still, seriously, take a listen. My biggest complaint for this game is honestly how overpowered coins are. Now let me explain what I mean. Coins do have a much bigger use in this game than the last two games. You can buy powerful weapons with limited durability, healing items, and expensive badges which increase Mario's stats whenever they're equipped, giving you a little more control over how much you can take in battles. However, coins can also be used to basically solve any hurdle that might put you under pressure. Are you running out of time to turn the rings in the best way in battle? Just spend more coins to increase the timer as long as you'd like. Are you completely stumped on how to align your enemies? Just spend 999 coins to have the toads you've rescued solve the entire thing for you. I'd say the challenge in this game is relatively fair for the most part, so it feels kinda cheeky when you can just buy your way through everything. But that is my biggest complaint on what is otherwise a great game. It isn't a true Paper Mario game in my book still. It doesn't really have that same charm the series has had in games 1 through 3, but it's charming in a different way, and that's okay. Though I still would really like to have an actual return to form someday for this series. I don't care what that stupid interview has to say, that doesn't mean it can't happen.
Paper Mario the Origami King is still one of those Paper Mario games, and thus some people out there don't like it. So I'd say if you're a little on the fence on it, I'd say maybe give it a try if you find it on sale or at a good used price. I still would like for them to return to the base formula for this game, but I still really like this game despite that. So, yeah.
So in 2016, a brand new Doom game came out for 8th generation consoles, including the Switch a year after, and it was fantastic. So then in 2018, a sequel was announced. It got delayed twice, but now I can certainly say that Doom Eternal is the same amazing game as the initial reboot, but even better. The game is even faster, more aggressive, even more brutal, and has an even bigger variety since it takes a Hell on Earth approach, which gives an excuse to visit multiple different locales rather than just Mars facility in hell. And it isn't Doom without absolutely banging music. My goodness, how did this game not get the award for Best Audio? The music in this game is absolutely incredible. I mean, you may hear the same tracks over and over again when fighting, but it's never sickening because the music is just that good. And I was also surprised to see a much bigger emphasis on platforming in this game. It's not a bad thing at all though, because it's really fun climbing up walls, dashing, and swinging off bars. It's really good stuff. I do have a confession to make though. While I do think this game is absolutely brilliant and a great improvement over the first game, I actually did get a bit doomed out. Now, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy my time with this game at all. Like I said, I really liked what I played. But just before this game came out, I played a ton of the first game before I played Doom Eternal, and even though I think this game is superior, I didn't end up beating it because I kind of felt like I needed to take a break every time I played it. You may be questioning why I even put this game on the list if I got tuckered out before even finishing it, and that's fair enough, but it just wouldn't feel right to me if I didn't put this somewhere here, because this game is fantastic. It's freaking Doom Eternal. I guess I just need to be in a Doom mood again to get around to finishing it. That time will come, just not now, I guess. Also, it's even on the Switch digitally if you either want to play it on the go, or if you don't have the other consoles. There were some obvious sacrifices, but it's still Doom Eternal and plays exactly the same.
I will get around to finishing Doom Eternal someday, but right now I think I've played enough of it to where I think it has a worthy spot on this list. And the soundtrack is fantastic. I do not understand how that didn't get audio reward from the Game Awards.
Time to go hang out with my friend. Oh wait, I can't do that. Animal Crossing New Horizons was exactly the game we needed during the beginning of this horrendous pandemic of 2020. We were all stuck indoors and we couldn't go and visit our friends and loved ones, or especially go to any kinds of conventions. Yet Animal Crossing was the perfect way to have get-togethers, parties, graduations, and all that stuff. Though we also get a really addicting game in this package too. Putting your island together and making it grow day after day was really cool. It's easily the most accessible Animal Crossing to this day. So many good quality of life improvements over the previous games were made, and having this game on the Switch just really drives home how huge this game is for the series and just every Switch owner in general. It's an absolute joy. Although I personally don't think it's the absolute definitive Animal Crossing experience.
Listen to what I have to say and maybe you won't be mad.
It's one of the best Animal Crossing games for sure, but some things about it did feel missing for me. For example, it's pretty underwhelming that your shop can only be upgraded once. In the previous games, we went from this rusty old store you'd see in a black alley to a full-on supermarket. It was so cool seeing how far the store has come since you first arrived in your town, yet in this game, you upgrade it once and that's it. I also really do miss other big areas like the city from City Folk or the tropical island from New Leaf. Sure, there are occasionally some special islands you can go to like the photo house or this limited time maze event, but it doesn't really have the same kind of depth and extra content that the previous games had. And one last complaint I did have with New Horizons is that I really don't like the method they used by spreading out content that I feel should have been in the game at launch across several different updates. It makes the game feel like it's unfinished in a way, and I haven't really liked that method of a game's content lately. I mean, the game is very polished, it looks absolutely great, but I just kinda like having a complete game when I buy it, you know? But that shouldn't detract you from getting New Horizons. It is a fantastic game for the Switch and a must-have if you want to sink your teeth into something that you'll spend hours upon hours playing. I just wish they made the game feel a bit more complete at its launch.
I feel like it was right to put Animal Crossing New Horizons on this list because it did come out at the perfect time, back when we were all locked indoors and we couldn't go see anybody. Even if I don't think it is the definitive Animal Crossing and I still prefer New Leaf, it is still a really fun game and I think it should be on the list because of it.
Valve really hasn't put up a video game in years besides a Dota card game, but it feels like nearly a decade. They've more so been working on Steam and hardware for the past few years. People are over here begging for Half-Life 3 after Half-Life 2 ended on a ridiculous cliffhanger. And after waiting so long, we didn't get that exactly, but we did finally get a brand new Half-Life experience in the form of Half-Life Alyx, which is a full $60 AAA VR experience. Now, I do understand why some people may have been disappointed by this. People have waited super long and they get a VR game which requires a very high amount of money, from getting a VR headset to buying more powerful computer specs. Not to mention, some people straight up don't even like VR. They'd rather just sit in front of a monitor and play games with a regular controller or keyboard and mouse. But if you are a fan of VR like I am, and if you're especially a fan of Half-Life, this game is so incredibly worth it. This game takes Half-Life and makes it 10 times more immersive with the way you can take out enemies, like luring them into a trap, throwing a grenade into a big horde of enemies, using things as shields to block projectiles, or you can just go all shooty with Rush's futuristic weapons. The VR itself is what really sells this game for me. Besides the way you can take out enemies in your own creative way, the world around you is absolutely brilliant, and this game can straight up get freaky at points. It's not like horror game level scary, except for one part of the game that I really don't want to spoil. If you play this, you know damn well what I'm talking about, but there are very intense moments, times where you'll be grossed out, and times where you'll kind of be jump scared, but not too badly. Also, man, the gravity gloves have to be probably the coolest method of grabbing things from far away in VR. Pointing at something and flicking it on over to your hand to catch feels really dang good. There are also lots of these secret resins that you can find throughout the world. You can use them to upgrade your weapons at these upgrade stations, which to me does make up lack for the extra guns in this game, since you only have a pistol, a shotgun, and a laser machine gun. You know, I can hardly think of any complaints for this game. It's just so immersive and really fun to play. But there are these puzzles you solve using Alyx's multi-tool accessory, and while I am okay with some of them like this laser puzzle, the orb puzzle straight up gets annoying later on in the game, especially after how many times you'll be using it to unlock these safe thingies. Also, I guess the enemy variety is also kinda lacking until the last bit of the game, but that's really it, honestly. The game is lengthy for a VR game, so you're definitely getting your money's worth, and I think I've praised this game quite a lot. If you have a VR headset on your PC, get this game. It is a must-play if you're into stuff like this. And plus, if you get a Valve Index for your PC, I forgot to mention that this game comes free with your Valve Index, so there's no excuse. Play this masterpiece.
One!
I bet you're not gonna know what my number one is, even if you already knew that I'm into 3D platformers. That's right, you didn't see it coming. My number one is Crash Bandicoot 4, baby! Crash Bandicoot hasn't had an actual brand new experience since 2008, And after him getting revived in the form of a remake of the games that put him on the map, all I and many others wanted was for a brand new Crash game that would take the linear hallway platforming goodness established in the first 3 games and crank it up just a notch. Well, Crash Bandicoot 4 finally came out, and it is as good as I would have hoped it would be. While it wasn't made by the people that worked on the excellent remakes, it was made by Toys for Bob, who also did the Spyro remakes, and while I was concerned that they wouldn't be able to live up to the goodness of the PS1 classics, Toys for Bob took great measure into taking Crash into the next best step forward he possibly could. They refined the controls to near perfection, they drastically increased the scale of the linear levels to have incredible level design. The soundtrack, while not as good as the first 3 games in my personal opinion, is still an absolute bop, and the graphics and animations are absolutely stellar. Crash 4 is everything I wanted from a brand new Crash game and more. It introduces so many new mechanics, it runs at a buttery smooth frame rate on next gen consoles as well as the upgraded previous gen consoles, and it's hard as balls, harder than the original trilogy somehow. They understood what they had to do for a AAA sequel to one of PlayStation's most beloved platformer trilogies. It's not perfect though. While I do love this game, it is admittingly a task and a half to 100%, specifically 106%. I did enjoy 100%ing the game, but the shit you have to do to get to that point in 106% is monstrous. You have to replay levels multiple times to get multiple different gems and inverted gems in the inverted version of every level in the game, and if you're going to get 106%, you have to smash every single box in the level and collect the most Wumpa fruit without dying once, which is pretty crazy for how lengthy the levels can be and for how hidden some of these boxes are. It's ridiculous. Oh, and then there are those time trials. Those are really hard as well. But as long as you're not rushing through it and taking your time if you want to 100% it, it shouldn't really affect your overall enjoyment of the game, because even with the insane completion requirements, this is one of the best 3D platformers I played in the past few years, and while it may not objectively be as good as some of the other games on this list, it's still my personal favorite game of 2020.
Well, those were my favorite games of this year. Let me know what your favorite games were of 2020 down below. I know there were a ton of games that I missed. I didn't get around to playing Hades or Ghost of Tsushima or some other games like that. It's nice to look back on some of the positive things that happened this year, even though, you know, some of the other crap was really bad. Hopefully, if we all make a good effort, we can make 2021 just at least a little bit better. And that's what I'm hoping for this year, along with, you know, of course, some good games, but, you know, I think I'd rather have everything else be good as well. So with that, I am going to go take a nap. Thanks for watching. Also, I didn't like this game that much.